Turn your life around for the final bell. It's now or never, you have to change well. It's now or never, you must change well. Hello and welcome to another episode of the Change Well podcast. Now, last podcast I talked about I was taking the senior fitness test, and it was about to be expected. I did great on anything that had to do with endurance or strength, and I did horrible on anything to do with flexibility. So for the next few months, I'm going to take a wellness journey to see if I can improve my flexibility. And I'll keep you updated on how that goes, which leads us to the topic today. What is a wellness journey, and what are the approaches to take when you're on that journey? Now, one thing you need to know about wellness journeys, they're never direct. Any wellness journey includes valleys, plateaus, and peaks, and each of these require a different approach to navigate. For example, when you're in a valley, you must first find a path that allows you to climb out of that valley most efficiently. Immediately leaving the valley is essential because sometimes disaster knocks you downstream. You must start even if your first steps are small. You got to get out of that valley. You got to get out of that ditch. Now, in contrast, after making a bit of good progress, you sometimes hit a plateau. When you hit that plateau, you must keep driving forward while searching for little tweaks that will help you lift off of it. Once you find that change, you need to double down because now you know how to get off that plateau and lift yourself up and start doing your ascent to the final peak, your final goal. Now, when ascending a hill, it is important not to climb that hill all in one day. Instead, it's just like a road that climbs up a mountain. You've seen them in Colorado. You need to take a circuitous route that allows you to climb and not fall back down the hill or step off a cliff, which is worse. Lastly, the most important thing is once you're at the peak of your health journey, you need to stay there a while to view how far you have come and to prepare for even higher peaks. It's not about getting to the top of your fitness goal, it's about staying there. Now, what does this meandering path to wellness look like in real life? Let's examine a few of these experiences with valleys, plateaus, and peaks from my own experience. First, getting out of the valley. The first step when you leave a valley is the most important one. You need to break out of the rut and shake off the complacency. You know, valleys, if you look at them, are beautiful. They can be comfortable places for a while, but also most valleys are susceptible to flooding. And if you stay in there too long, a flood of health problems will surely come. Now, for myself, I was stuck in my valley for over 5 years, focusing on work and family and foregoing fitness. I gained over 150 pounds. At first, the weight gain had little impact, and I was comfortable with too little sleep and too much pizza and beer. But the flood of health problems started to come. Sleep apnea, heart problems, and fatigue flooded in, and I had to get out of the valley or I was sure to drown. So I decided to take the first step. I joined Weight Watchers and delegated some of my work effort. I used the additional time to find the most effective exercise to complement my improved nutrition. I experimented with walking first off, but I found that I could not go that far because of my weight. I soon realized that the only way to get out of that valley, out of that ditch, was to do low-impact exercises. So I swallowed my pride, got in a bathing suit, and did some water aerobics. This was the most efficient way to get exercise to improve my fitness without hurting myself. I could move on to something else once I got out of the ditch, but I had to get out of the ditch. If you are currently in the valley of despair, I posted a blog in the show notes that will help you take those first few steps. Okay, you're out of the valley and you're making some good progress. The momentum coming out of the valley carried me forward for the first 5 months. I consistently lost 2 pounds a week, walked 10,000 steps daily, and practiced mindfulness and prayer for at least 20 minutes. Then all of a sudden, I hit a plateau and I could not get off. One week I'd lose a half a pound, the next week I'd regain it. This went on for over a month. The problem with a plateau is it is hard to determine how long it will last, and it will drive you crazy. On my wellness plateau, it reminded me of my drives through Kansas on our family trips to Minnesota. Now, one summer we took our German exchange student on our yearly trip, and she was very excited about the trip. But midway through Kansas, she got a little tired of the monotony and she said, "It's just very flat here with many cows. When will we see people again?" I remember it distinctly. And a wellness plateau is just like that. When you're on it, you never know if you'll ever start making progress again. But just like driving through the plains of Kansas, you need to drive through to new health. Now, what do? First, it's essential to keep going, consistently applying the practices and habits that made you have progress in the first place. But that's not enough. Next, you need to analyze whether you are as consistent as you think you are. Have you stopped monitoring your portion sizes, for example? Or skipping a day or two of mindfulness? Maybe you're not getting enough sleep. Lastly, you should consider tweaking your habits to break out of your plateau. Examine one habit at a time. Don't do them all at once, while staying consistent on your other routines. If you start making progress again with this new tweak or new habit, double down on it and push your way off the plateau. I used all three of these techniques to break out of my plateau. First, I kept up the habits that propelled me on out of the valley. Second, I analyzed my habits and found that I was not monitoring my portion sizes. I was eating more than I expected. I said, that's about a cup when it was about 3. I also had recently changed my sleep routine due to a work push, and I said, well, I got to get a little bit more sleep. I redoubled my efforts in both those areas. Lastly, I tweaked my fitness routine. I began jogging 1 day a week instead of walking and added in weight training. The consistency, analysis, and tweaks did the trick, and I was off the plateau and making progress again. Now, in the blog in the show notes, we have a link to another blog that will tell you how to be consistent. It's also a podcast. You need to be consistent like Army football. And we're not even close to September, but I'm ready for another great season of Army football. Lastly, once you get off the plateau, it is tempting to overdo the routine that just got you off of it and rush up and try to reach your wellness goal too fast. But if you're going too fast, it's just like climbing a hill or climbing a mountain. If you ever look at the roads up a mountain, they're circular. They're not straight. And just like you'll burn out your gears in your car if you're trying to climb that hill too steeply, you'll burn out and risk an injury trying to reach the last bit of your fitness goal. Myself, I almost made that mistake of trying to go too far too fast on the last climb to my initial weight loss goal. Long walks were my secret weapon to get off the plateau, and first it was 5-mile walks. Then it became 10-mile walks or longer on the weekend. Finally, I said, hey, I want to get this goal. So on a Veterans Day, I decided to walk 50 miles in 1 day. It helped me get my weight loss goal, but it was near disastrous. Because a week later, after a long flight, my right knee buckled due to the strain put on the walk and my inability to stretch on the plane. My fitness gains were at a risk. Luckily, in this case, I recovered from it, but you may not be that lucky. So my recommendation is once you're finding how you can climb up the hill, be patient and don't overdo it. The goal is not about reaching the peak. It's about staying on it and climbing higher. So you need to stay healthy. Now, once you achieve a new height, what do? Reaching a new wellness goal is a cause for celebration, but only for a while. It is hard to stagger out of the valley, trudge along the plateau, and climb to the peak. It is even harder to stay on the peak and reach new heights. To keep going and not fall back, you must apply the lessons you learned. First, look back upon the valley you scrabbled out of. Remember what happens when you get complacent and comfortable. Also, be thankful that you escaped the flood of health problems that would have resulted if you stayed down there. Second, keep consistent in your habits while analyzing and tweaking routines to escape another plateau. And finally, set your sights on a new wellness goal when you hit your peak, keeping patient not to go too far too fast and risking your gains. So keep these in mind over the next week. Tell me how you applied them. And until next week, change well.